This is a big question that lots of people have been asking, well, ever since John Cena announced he was going to do a retirement tour. But now we are very close. We know there's the John Cena The Last Time Is Now tournament. It just rolls off the tongue. And I suppose it is going to make a difference who is in that last position to face John Cena. But the big question that stands above that even taller is, should John Cena lose his last match? Should he do the honors before he does walk off into the sunset? Or does it actually not matter because it's 2025? That is what I want to talk about today, because I've been thinking about it a lot, because I am a nerd, and as you are here as well, please do subscribe, and please do check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Simon316, where we do watch-alongs, only cost $5, and we're doing a lot of John Cena matches at the moment, because basically I'm sad that he's retiring. So if we go with the rumour mill, and again, I would take this all with a pinch of salt because it changes all the time. Triple H and the rest of the WWE creative team could have wake up this morning and gone, I don't want it to be Gunther anymore. But Gunther certainly is where we can start. We're going to talk about other people as well. By the time you've seen this, I am recording it before SmackDown on the 14th of November. And that could change a lot because we're going to find out who are some of these surprises in the tournament. And if Chris Jericho walked out, it's not going to be Chris Jericho. All of a sudden, you may be like, what's going to happen with that? But if it is Gunther, what does Gunther get out of beating John Cena? I suppose that is the first way to look at it. And it does go back to WrestleMania 30. People still get mad at me about this, but I am one of the few, it feels like, maybe we need to have a nuanced conversation about this as well, that believes Brock Lesnar beating The Undertaker did benefit Brock Lesnar. Now, Brock Lesnar was already a massive star, but if you watch everything that WWE did after that, he did become the end-of-level boss. He never lost. He pulverized everybody. Anytime he turned up, people were like, oh my gosh, it's Brock Lesnar. And anytime he was defeated, usually for a world championship, it was explained to you, this is a big deal. Like when Seth Rollins did it, it's like, oh my gosh, Seth Rollins is now the absolute man. It's why they did all those Roman Reigns matches with the guy, because they were so desperate to get the old version of Roman Reigns over. So having those kind of destructions on your resume can help. Of course, if it is Gunther that's going to do it, throughout 2026, it needs to be like, hello, my name is Gunther, I beat John Cena. Goodbye, my name is Gunther, I beat John Cena, John Cena, John Cena. Now, we didn't do that with Austin Theory at WrestleMania. That thing was an absolute bust, something else you do have to put in your brain as well. But somebody like Gunther can absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for, build the rest of his career, the next 10 years, which is essentially what Brock Lesnar had, a good decade of destruction, ironically, on the fact that he was the guy to retire John Cena, I would presume win the IC title, but I guess that could change before we get to that Saturday night's main event, and he could become even bigger than he is now. I don't think it would prevent a babyface turn down the line. You would have to push pause on that because I think people would be so damn mad. But also the idea of beating John Cena should be to piss the fans off in order for them to be more invested in somebody else beating you, right? Don't forget it was John Cena who got pulverized by Brock Lesnar a few months after that WrestleMania 30 match at SummerSlam. Yes, it was supposed to be Daniel Bryan. That feels to be revisionist history here because Bryan wouldn't have lost the championship by SummerSlam had he not gotten injured, but we got what we got, and Brock Lesnar having that 1-2 punch was like, oh my gosh. So let's say, and I'm totally making this up, I don't think this is actually that feasible, that Gunther beats John Cena for the IC title and then somehow also wins the World Championship within 6 months, right, to go on a similar timeline. He would be one of the biggest stars in the industry, and the retort to that is always, he's already a big star now. You can always make somebody bigger. And in terms of who's at the tippity top right now, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, I don't want to say their time is limited. They'll be able to go on for as long as they want to go on, I'm sure, especially in this day and age when training and nutrition techniques are totally different. But you have to have people coming underneath them. And in 2026, of course, we should be seeing the Obafemis, the Trick Williams, the Bron Breakers, the Jacob Fatus make their way. But Gunther is kind of already above all of it. Well, he is, because he's been a former world champion. So if you want to take him, and he's the person that you choose to be the tippity-whippity top, this is the way to do it. You beat John Cena. It is an incredible exclusive position to be in, because WWE has made it clear they consider him the GOAT. Of course he's in the conversation. If you said he wasn't, I would never agree with you. We just stare at each other for ages. So whoever does take that should be in WWE plans forever, basically. You should make him sign a deal that says, maybe I'll do other stuff, but really I'll never leave. I'm not against it at all, but I also think that Gunther would be fine without all that, and that because we are living in a 2025 world, there's other ways, if you want to increase his star power, that he could do it, namely with the people that's already there. Like Roman Reigns lost to Bronson Reed in that Australian street fight, mate. But if Gunther spent 2026, I don't even know how you would do this, beating Cody Rhodes, beating Roman Reigns, and beating CM Punk, even after losing to John Cena, I would argue maybe he wouldn't be at the level that you would by beating John, but you'd be pretty damn high, and you'd be somewhere where you could absolutely influence the business and TV ratings and audiences and all that kind of a noise. So I think it all depends on what you want from wrestling in the modern day, and something that I always go back to, especially because it wasn't that long ago, was what AEW did with Sting at Revolution 2024. I get confused because time passes so fast. But him teaming with his fake son Darby Allin to take on the Young Bucks and retire with the tag team titles, it made me happy. And now when I think back to Sting's last match, I think about his sons coming out with him. I do think about the crazy spots that Darby did, but mostly it's just a wonderful memory of Sting, and it reminded me how much I enjoyed Steve Bourdon throughout his career in WCW, in TNA. WWE stuff, not so much, but thank goodness he did do it. That's way better than the what if question. And AEW was just the perfect send-off for him, so thank goodness we were able to do that. But again, to use my own stupid language, it made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. It made me happy to be a wrestling fan. I kind of skipped around a bit. It put water in my seeing devices, so it made me emotional. It made me connect to it. All these things that you want wrestling to do. And I would suppose, just given the generations, John Cena, towards the end of his career, is arguably more popular than Sting was at the end of his career, just because, again, John Cena has grown up with this current generation, whereas Sting, being the absolute hero that he was, could argue was 2 generations before. I mean, not really, he was 1 generation. But he'd already wrestled in multiple decades. Of course, John Cena debuted in 2002, which is still crazy long. I've got another video about that soon. 10 crazy facts about WWE. When you have people that go to a show and they're going to spend a lot of money for that show in Washington, the Saturday night's main event, I think you really do have to think about the fans in the arena and the fans watching at home, as opposed to the superstar that you want to push. Now, I totally understand back in the day this was different. One of the big reasons where the tradition came from, that you do the honors on your way out, is because that person could then steal your star power as you pass the torch. That is then going to help revenues. That's going to help TV ratings. That's going to help Gates. And the whole company is going to be leveled up. WWE is such a beast these days. I don't think John Cena putting somebody over in his last match is going to make that much of a difference. Now, I understand why John Cena would want to do that, because he's a traditionalist. Quite clearly, he wants to give back to wrestling. He's turned that SNME into an NXT versus main roster show, which is the coolest thing ever. And it's another reason why John Cena needs to be discussed as the GOAT, because he says what he means, right? And he means what he says. He genuinely wants to make sure the next generation benefit from him going away. So sure, if he sits down to have a big chat about that and somebody says it's going to be Gunther, I would bet my ass, not that anybody wants to win my ass, that John Cena would be like, listen, my friends, I need Gunther to win. And that's just because he wants to give back to wrestling, like I've already said. And of course he loves the fans. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not pretending like I don't care about the fans. If anybody cares about the fans, it's flipping John Cena. But on that night, and when, listen, I'm sure he'll do some appearances afterwards, but for his last match, we draw a line under an incredible career, I think I just want everybody to feel good. And I think I want everybody to feel great. And I think I want everybody to just be like, oh, John Cena, thank you so much. And also, I think there's an upside for retiring with the IC title. I mean, if he's going to lose his last match, we're going to do something at Survivor Series and at Madison Square Garden. Maybe he could lose that championship before the SNME. If he's going to win there, he can lose beforehand, right? That makes all the sense in the world because you end on a high. So it actually doesn't necessarily matter whether he's the Intercontinental Champion or not. But if he does hold on to that thing, starting off 2026 with some kind of tournament or a Battle Royal, or you want to do something with a Royal Rumble where the IC title is tied in, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think people do get excited about that. Tournaments have been overdone in 2025, but I like to believe in 2026 we could come up with something creative with it. So maybe that's a nice way to say, well, John Cena's gone, but here's this exciting thing we can do with the championship that does have way more worth than it did do 5-6 years ago, mostly because of Gunther and the investment that we had there. I just think I want to see John Cena succeed, and I want to end that show. Of course, he's going to do one of the best speeches, a fine speech you may see that you probably ever heard, especially for somebody retiring. I think that would just make people feel good, and people want to feel good, and it would end the year on a high. And sure, the first 6 months were a little bit rickety-dickety. Nobody knew what was going on. But because of the madness of the first 6 months, the second 6 months have been even better. I do understand the point as well, that if you lose and all of a sudden you do cut one of the best promos that anybody's ever heard, nobody's going to give a flub whether you won or lost or not, right? We're going to be connected to that moment. People have been so into the John Cena retirement tour, and there was a little bit of, ifs, buts, maybes. I would just end it on a high. Gunther could just roll out the ring and leave straight away, so you won't even be thinking about him if it is Gunther. But that's why maybe my answer changes if it's not him. Now, I don't think Drew McIntyre is in this tournament. I mean, he may be, because there's so many surprises and we don't have brackets. But if all of a sudden it was a Drew McIntyre, I think then all of a sudden you do kind of change the parameters a little bit, just because Drew has had those 2 matches against Cody Rhodes. He hasn't won the WWE Championship in either of them. People kind of found it funny we extended that feud, and Drew has a big fan base, mostly off the back of what he did with CM Punk, which was all-time work, and they want him to be given something that feels like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did it. I do understand that. At the same time, Drew McIntyre is 40 years old. Not there's anything wrong with that. I hate this new discussion that everybody is so old. You either like him or you don't like him. They're either a draw or not. I don't want to get into the age thing. I think it'd be way better if we could all be ageless in 2026. Of course, you need to push young guys, because life will tell you when you're 40, you're nearer to the end of the career than you are at the start. But let's not start not pushing people because they're 40, especially because Drew McIntyre doesn't come across that way at all. At the same time, I can see Drew's character really benefiting given what he has done over the last 2 years, but then not being able to do it against Punk, not being able to do it against Cody, and then beating a John Cena, I think kind of evaporates all that and allows him to start again. But WWE's been so inconsistent with Drew's booking. Am I really going to believe that if he beats John Cena and becomes the IC champion, which is pretty cool, that in 2026 they're going to go all the way? No, I would doubt it a little bit. And that's why whoever is in that position, you have to be all in on. Even if you did it for 3 months and it's not working, I think they have to become a pride of place in the roster. They have to become someone that you give extracurricular space to, like, how can we make this work? What did we do wrong? In fact, we shouldn't even get to that point. Everything should be planned out from this point onwards. I don't know whether that was the case with Brock Lesnar post the WrestleMania 30 stuff, but more or less WWE got that right, even if they did fall into the SummerSlam thing with John Cena, when he absolutely murdered him. But that's when I go back to the fact that no matter who it is, John Cena should be the guy that wins that match, because again, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference to business, because WWE is going to be huge until their Netflix deal is up. That's the only time they could properly have a uh-oh or a bump in the road, is if for whatever reason, I'm just speculating here, I'm just making it up essentially, that you get to the end of the 5-year period and Netflix go, nope, we don't want to deal with you anymore, and for whatever reason WWE has to sign a lesser deal with somebody else. Then they would have to change the way that things look business-wise. That's so far away. That's like, what, 2030? Basically, this time the next we're doing 2025. 2030. I love John Cena, and I hope he's still around in some form, but no one's going to be worrying about his retirement match in 2030 because we move on so fast, especially in the social media world. Ironically, I actually think that we should play for the day, right? We should focus on the day. We shouldn't be worrying about the future. We shouldn't be worrying about what next. We should just be like, John Cena's had this incredible career. We know all the fans are behind him. No one's going to boo him. You could do John Cena against anybody in that match. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, CM Punk. The other person is getting booed. Or at the very least, John Cena is not getting booed. Just have a good time with it. Make it into a party. Make it into a celebration. Remind everybody what he did do after the last 20 years. There is probably one last caveat, but even then, I don't think you can change my mind. Because let's say it was a Bron Breakker, who I don't even think is in this tournament. Let's say it was a Bronson Reed. Let's say it was a Trick Williams. Let's say it's an Obafemi, who is absolutely my guy. If you want to be the way, I guess it's different with Oba and Trick because they would be coming up from NXT. We know that Javon Evans is in this thing. And Javon Evans, he will do too. But he's such a babyface. I think you'd be a bit wishy-washy with that as well, because you want to like him, and whoever beats John Cena, unless John Cena really puts them over afterwards, is going to be hated just a little bit. And to me, Javon Evans is such a wonderful babyface, where of course Trick's been playing heel for the last 6 months to a year, and Obafemi is a babyface, but you can do whatever the flub you want with Obafemi. That dude is just clay, man. He's just so good. Honestly, he's going to main event WrestleMania one day. I can't guarantee it, but I'll go as far as I possibly can. But let's go with Obafemi just because he's such an imposing presence. I suppose this is very similar to Brock Lesnar. If it was Obafemi that all of a sudden was in this tournament and then he won the whole thing, you've put him on the main roster, and even if a main roster audience doesn't watch NXT, they're going to be like, well, who the hell is this guy? You're going to have video packages, you're going to have to give him promo time, you're going to have to push him. He should probably be the world champion within the next 6 months minimum to capitalize on that. I think that's the only situation where I kind of start looking around like a mysterious dog. I'm like, well, maybe you should allow him to do that. But I guess the reason that I backtrack on that is I don't think WWE is going to do it. I do not think Obafemi or even a Trick Williams. I think eventually Trick Williams becomes more of, I mean this in a positive way, your stereotypical babyface. I think that's where he's best, and he's going to do absolutely fine regardless. Obafemi is going to do absolutely fine regardless too. But because we haven't really seen any of him on the main roster, and because once again, to repeat my phrasing, he's such an imposing dude. If you really wanted to lean into the threatening nature of him and kind of acknowledge that on the main roster, he's not going to be as big as he is in NXT. And this is not a negative either, just because people on the main roster, Randy Orton, for example, are just super huge human beings, whereas a lot of people in NXT are this generation of wrestlers who are naturally smaller. So if you want Obafemi to all of a sudden stand out in a crowd of giants, you have him absolutely pulverize John Cena. Then you're going to get people talking. I mean, he can't beat him up too bad because John Cena needs to get up afterwards and do the promo. That's the worst thing you can do. I bet John Cena would pitch for this as well because, again, he's so damn selfless. He gets carried out on a stretcher in his final match and you have to go watch the ending promo on Raw or something. Please don't do that. I don't want that. I want it on Saturday Night's Main Event. I don't mind if John Cena turns up for the last few Raws in 2025. That's totally fine. Who wouldn't want a little bit more? And he has made it clear it's his last match. But I think somebody like Obafemi is when I start to fall off my perch for all the reasons that we've just talked about. I think that would be a huge pat on the back for him and what WWE sees for him. And I also think you would, well, not only would you get that new audience to buy him to him instantly, but it gives him a talking point for every single one of his promos. So while he is getting his character over, he has this magical thing up his sleeve, the ace in the hole, that I think some people do need when they jump up from NXT. But at the same time, I think Obafemi's going to be fine regardless, and that rhymes, so it must be true. And maybe just because I'm getting old, maybe it's just because I don't need to worry about what WWE does from a financial standpoint. I just want that last John Cena thing to be something that lives inside of me as a lovely moment that I got to experience as a wrestling fan. And I suppose that's how I feel about Sting's AEW ending. But maybe it is going to be more for John Cena because I was already watching wrestling when he came along in 2002, right? So it almost speaks to me in a totally different way, whereas Sting was always there, right? I attended wrestling, I got into it, I was like, who's this Sting guy? Then you learn about his WCW stuff, then you find him in TNA, which is always a little bit weird. Then he comes to WWE and you realize what a big deal it is, and then he gets to draw a line under it all in AEW. Whereas again, John Cena has been WWE for 20 plus years, and if you got into wrestling at any time from 2022, John Cena was there, right? And if you got any time before that, John Cena was there. So, and there's only a few people that could have done this retirement tour, right? I'm not going to name names because that would be mean. But some people, you could say, you're going to do a retirement tour. People go, all right, yeah, cool. Whereas John Cena, like, absolutely, man, I want to get into it. So I think my answer would be no. I think there's no one really on the roster, both in NXT or the main event, that I would want to see. I just don't want to be sad. And the world is so crazy right now, and wrestling is meant to be there as a distraction. I think, and this could change tomorrow, we wake up with different ideas every single day, but I think I certainly would be leaning on the side of John Cena should win. John Cena should get a big celebration, much like Cody Rhodes did at WrestleMania 40 with his friends and his family and the rest of the roster, all just cheering him on as we go down a wonderful walk down memory lane and remind just what he flipping did for wrestling, especially because he propped it up at a time when WWE had no idea what they wanted to do because the Attitude Era was dead. So, after going on this rant and after doing my notes earlier, I'm going to say with no, John Cena should not lose his last match. Let's change the game. Tradition is important and we should never forget about the past. And without the past, we can't have the present and we can't have the future. And if you're a brand new wrestler, you should be watching everything. Mid-South and old WWF and WCW and the NWA. There's loads of stuff that's going to be able to transform you into the wrestler that you do want to be. But we also had to accept that living in 2025 and that wrestling is always going to evolve and wrestling is always going to change. So even if the done thing was the Super Duper Whooper Star to lose on their way out, I kind of think we're done with that now. I certainly don't think it would work with John Cena because people just want to cheer the guy. So let's not do it. And you know what? Let's start a brand new trend. Now, as I say, there's going to be 1,000 different ways to look at this, and I probably haven't touched all of them. Drop me a comment down there, because I may see one and go, oh my gosh, and we can talk about that as well. Please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Talked about my Patreon already. Go to grillermind.com/Simon. You can Simon get 10% off, often more percent off. These are the supplements I use. They ship worldwide, often do free shipping as well. Try them out. I wouldn't lie to you. That's how good they are. Come tell me I'm an idiot, SimonMiller316. Come watch my stupid TikTok videos on TikTok. Search for my name. It's where I do my producing WWE backstage promos. Needs a much better name. Get yourself a happy holiday message on my Cameo. Search for my name there as well. ProWrestling.com/Simon Miller for stupid t-shirts like this. Should not have done that. Otherwise, my friends, have a terrific day. See you soon.